it
I
could
should
be a
probably
while.
post that picture of me on our website or on our Facebook or whatever, just so people can see how ugly this is.
There's definitely some rapey vibes coming up from that side of the room. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Nerds You're Looking For podcast, a nerd culture podcast that discusses nerddom through various segments. My name is Tyler Hunt, and I'm here with my co-host, as always, Pat Kuhn. How's it going, man?
It's going pretty well. I got that ugly-ass mustache. I've been rocking that for like a week now. So, it's not been going well, because I had really grown out my beard.
Yeah.
So, I had to go to work with a mustache on Monday, and, everybody I ran into was like, oh, man, look at you. And so I had to tell the story over and over and over again. So, yeah, it was not pleasant. And I had another shot on Thursday, and they blew that as well. So, both games they could have legitimately won, and they blew it, both of them. So,
yeah.
I wasn't very happy about it. But
Yeah.
they played well on Thursday, so I got to give them credit for that.
Yeah, if you're not a regular listener, Pat had a bet going with his buddy with the Bears-Jaguars game last weekend. He lost, and now he has to rock a mustache until the Bears win. So
yeah,
it
I
could
should
be
probably
a while.
post that picture of me on our website or on our Facebook or whatever, just so people can see how ugly this is.
There's definitely some rapey vibes coming up from that side of the room.
Yeah, it's not. It's weird because I grow facial hair pretty easily. It's not a big deal, but I'm a ginger, so it doesn't, it's really light.
Yeah.
So it looks super thin. It's actually not that thin. It's really hard to see it. And so it's not a good look. I definitely need the beard to kind of thicken it out. It's not great.
Yeah, I can't grow facial hair worth shit, so I will never be involved with a bet like that, I guess.
Yeah, it's not great. So if this is your first episode, we start off each episode by kind of checking in with each other. We call it What We're Into. So what are you into this week?
I'm going to briefly mention one thing and then talk more in depth about another. So I did go see a movie last night. I saw Keeping Up with the Joneses.
Oh, yeah? That looks like garbage.
It was really bad, really bad. So I also had seen Masterminds earlier this month, which was also bad, but I laughed much more in Masterminds than I did in Keeping Up with the Joneses. It just was not funny. So 2 out of 5, not good at all. Don't waste your time on it. That aside, I did start playing a new game this week that I am really excited about, and that's Gears of War 4.
Okay.
This game actually kind of snuck up on me. It's not something that I was counting down to like we do with Halo or Madden or those types of games. So I actually forgot that it was being released. But my buddy that lives in Seattle and myself, we play games every Monday night. That's the Twitch stream I do.
Yeah.
For the Nerds You're Looking For channel. And we decided to give Gears of War a shot. Our other buddy was really into it in college, so we're trying to get him to start playing with us on Monday nights, but he's stubborn. So we thought maybe if we make it Gears of War, he'll buy it and he'll play with us. But
then you got to play it on hardcore, don't you?
Yeah, that's the thing is I loved the first 3 games. And the first one was for the campaign. The first Gears of War was the game that I bought with my Xbox 360. So It was the first Xbox game I ever played, on the 360. I played Gears of War 2 and I started to kind of get into multiplayer. And then Gears of War 3, the buddy that we were talking about that we're trying to get to play the game with us, him and I did the campaign on co-op. And I never beat it because we had to play on the hardest difficulty because that's his thing. And we just got stuck on the last boss and we could never beat it.
Yeah.
So I've never beat Gears of War 3, but Gears of War 4's campaign, we started the co-op of it and we didn't play it a ton, probably a couple hours. And it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's the same stuff. There's new bad guys towards the beginning of the games that are robots, which is kind of a cool change. I think the Locust, or I think they're called the Swarm in this game, end up coming back throughout the game, but it's kind of a cool change of pace compared to the first 3. It takes place 25 years after the third one ends. It follows Marcus Phoenix's, I might have just fucked up his name, but I'm pretty sure it's Marcus Phoenix, his son. But anyways, the campaign is what it is. It's fun. It's the same game type. What I really love about the Gears of War games is the multiplayer. Just because like, I don't know what you would call the mechanics of it. They're kind of tank-like, the way that you run and fire and take cover. It's not like Call of Duty or Halo or those first-person games. I mean, obviously because it's third-person, but also, like, just the controls are so much different. And every kill that you get in multiplayer is just so gratifying, whether it's blowing somebody up with a shotgun or, revving up your chainsaw gauntlet and slicing somebody in half. It's really gratifying when you get a kill. There's also some cool game types. I don't think this one was around on the last 3, but the one that stands out to me is a game type called dodgeball.
Okay.
It's essentially team deathmatch, so it's like 5-on-5 or 5v5 or 6v6, and if you get killed, you're eliminated. But whenever somebody from your team kills somebody from the other team, whoever's dead gets brought back to life.
Sure.
So the same concept of dodgeball, obviously, and that game type was really a lot of fun to play. So, I'm looking forward to getting deeper into the campaign, getting more, into the multiplayer, but so far it's been really fun playing it, for sure.
Yeah, this is a franchise that, for whatever reason, I just never really got into it. They're fun games. Like, yeah. I actually played the first game halfway through twice. I played it with my brother who liked the game, and we played it co-op, but it was when I was in college, so we would play it a little bit, and then I would go back to school, and then I'd come back, and we'd play it some more. And so I think we got halfway through the game, and then I actually bought it when I was working at Target, because Target every once in a while has these ridiculously good, game deals, like you buy 2, you get 1 free or something like that. And it was right after Gears of War 2 had come out. So I bought Gears of War 1 and 2, and I was like, okay, I'm going to finally bust these out, because everybody loves them, and I've never played them. And then I got about halfway through it on co-op with my wife, which was a mistake. It was actually kind of fun, because she's not a big gamer, and she was just kind of humoring me. Yeah. And so basically we got through the same part that me and my brother had got to, and then that didn't last. And, so I've just never revisited it. I think I eventually ended up selling it, so I never even started Gears 2. Yeah. So as far as I've gotten through the franchise is about halfway through the first game twice.
What's cool about Gears 4, and this seems crazy to me, and I haven't explored how you download it or whatever, but the cover says that it comes with the first 3 games.
Oh yeah?
So you're buying all 4 Gears of War games for $60, and I think that they're downloads, but that was insane to me. So I haven't downloaded them yet or gotten into them yet, but they're on there.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, for sure, man. What are you into?
I am into a movie that I went and saw last night with my wife, The Girl on the Train, which was actually released October 7th, and we wanted to go see it when it was released, but it just was one of those things that kind of fell through the cracks. Yeah. But I really wanted to see it, so we made time last night. It stars Emily Blunt as Rachel, a divorced alcoholic who spies on her ex and another couple from a train. During an exceptionally heavy drinking day, she witnesses something shocking, but due to her condition, she must piece together the truth of what really happened using fuzzy clues. It's based on the book by the same name. It was directed by Tate Taylor, who directed The Help and Get On Up. Sorry. Neither movie I'd ever seen before. I've never read the book. And while I was watching this movie, I kept thinking to myself, I was like, am I missing something? Because the book is super popular, and I know this was a big deal when it came out. Yeah. I just didn't get into it. It's not a bad movie. I just felt like I was missing something, because the first about half of the movie is really boring to me. It's just literally her going back and forth on the train, and you kind of hear her inner monologue throughout it, and it's just kind of boring. I mean, there's some good character development, there's some good acting. Emily Blunt is really good in this movie. Yeah. It just, the story itself was really boring. Tyler and I have disagreed on Gone Girl a couple of times on the podcast, so I won't get back into that. But this movie felt like it really, really wanted to be Gone Girl. That's what really it reminded bad. Me of, yeah. Yeah, and it just, the twist didn't hit me in Gone Girl like it hit you, Tyler. Yeah. And this twist was just, it was super, super obvious. Yeah. I don't like when movies, they introduce a certain amount of characters. And I won't give away the twist, obviously, but they only introduce so many characters. And then they tease that it has to be this other character. Yeah. Well, we've only met a certain amount of characters. So once they introduce that it has to be somebody else, well, there's only that other person. For that twist to be effective, it has to be somebody that we've already met.
Yep.
And so there's only so many people that we've met. So when the twist happened, there's a little bit more to it than just the character that's involved, but it just didn't, it fell really, really flat for me.
It's kind of the same thing with like The Accountant when we reviewed that last week.
Exactly.
Whenever, well, I don't want to give it away because it's still a relatively new movie, but there's a character from his past and you're like, what happened to this character? It can only be this one person.
Yeah. And that's exactly what happened. It is kind of cool how they did it. They kind of show you certain scenes earlier in the movie, and then they kind of flip those scenes and show you what actually happened. So that's kind of cool. So it's not just it's almost like a twist within a twist, because you see the character, and the character that's involved is obviously super, super obvious, but the way that he kind of conducts himself is a little bit more of a twist. But even then, I just didn't care.
Yeah.
So it was disappointing for sure.
I've wanted to see this movie since it came out, and obviously I don't want to see it that bad because I haven't yet. I would still like to see it when it leaves theaters, but it looked intriguing to me, so it's pretty disappointing that it fell pretty flat.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not a bad movie. It's well put together. It's well acted. There's some pretty cool character development. It definitely suffers from that small world problem that I talked about I've talked about it several times, but especially when we talked about The Accountant last week. It definitely falls into that category, because it's like there's really 5, I guess, main characters, and they all know each other some way or another, and it's just kind of strange. It's like only 5 people in this entire universe, and it definitely suffers from that. But I mean, it's not a bad movie. It's just not as good as everybody made it out to be. And I didn't read the book, like I said, but I'm sure that people that read the book are also disappointed by it.
Oh, for sure.
All right, so our next segment is just plainly called Comics. Tyler and I read a ton of comics each week, and we like to spotlight one or two. So what'd you read this week?
Unfortunately, I have not been to the comic book shop this week, so I didn't have anything in my stack that was very new to talk about. I figured since we're in the midst of October and Shocktober and Halloween season and all that good stuff, I'd talk about a horror comic I'm reading. I've talked about it previously a couple times, but I figured I'd finish it up because season 1 just ended, is what they're calling it. So the comic is She-Wolf. I have talked about issues 1 and 2. I'm going to talk about issues 3 and 4 today. Like I said, issues 3 and 4 wrap up what the creator's calling season 1, and the comic won't be back until January for season 2, which is whatever. But anyways, it's like, I didn't think that this comic book could get any weirder.
Okay.
But it has. So issue 3, is basically, it dives into why werewolves exist.
Okay.
So, our main character is in like this weird mirror dimension, and she's kind of floating through it, and she's seeing the past, and, it has to do with like Jesus. And somebody summoning the devil, and the devil punishes this guy by turning him into a wolf. And he goes and he kills his whole family except for his daughter, and then he turns back into a human. He's like, oh my God, what did I do? Why didn't he have me kill my daughter? And then somebody points out that she's going to continue the curse through all time. And it's that kind of shit. And it's really trippy. The art in this comic I've talked about before is really weird. So yeah, that, like, issue 3 is a mind fuck for sure. Issue 4 deals with the main character, and I forget her name, who's the werewolf, and her friend, who's a vampire, summoning a demon, I guess, to get rid of the curse. But the demon plays a trick on him, so she forces herself to turn into a werewolf to kill the demon. It's really fucked up, man. Like, I know I say that every time I talk about this comic, but it is trippy. Like, just the artwork and the word bubbles. And honestly, I'm surprised. It doesn't look like a book put out by Image. Like, I know Image is more like the indie comic, and they give a lot of people shots, which is awesome. But it kind of, I said it before, and you told me to slow down, but we could probably make this comic book with like
again.
But you know, like the way the word bubbles look in certain comic books, like it looks like they were drawn just with hand onto the artwork. Like, it doesn't look like it was typed up and put in. It's just kind of scribbled handwriting. It's weird, and it's not like cursive. It's like just weird printed words. It looks like maybe not a kindergartner, but like a third grader did it.
Nice.
So it's gotten a little better from kindergarten, but we're not fully formed yet. So it's definitely a weird book. It's trippy. I guess it's doing well because they're going to continue with it, and they're putting out like a hardcover of season 1. But I don't know. As much as I love werewolves, this definitely wasn't the book I was waiting for. That being said, I guess it's like a train wreck because I plan on continuing to read it. So I don't know what else to say. I'm not sure if I recommend it or not, but it's trippy for sure.
What keeps bringing you back to it? Because it sounds like you don't enjoy it.
I don't know. I enjoy it on a certain level, but it might just be like, this is so bad it's good.
Yeah. Because, I mean, we've talked about it before. We both kind of, I mean, we'll give stuff shots.
Yes.
But we kind of have to discard things pretty quickly if we don't like it because we read so much and it gets expensive. So what about it?
I don't know. It's a super easy read.
Okay.
So it doesn't really take me, like I busted out issues 3 and 4 before I came over in like, 10, 15 minutes. So
really?
It's not a hard read at all. Not that comics are hard reads, but there's not a lot of dialogue. So,
sure.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I honestly can't answer that question. I think it's one of those things where I'm invested in the story now and I'm kind of excited to see where it goes. But at the same time, I really think it's a case of it's so bad that there's a cheesiness factor that I like.
Okay, cool. The comic book that I'm going to talk about, I will never talk about again because I will not read it again.
I'm excited for this. You told me before we started recording, I'd pretty much judge you for whatever you talk about.
Yeah. So the comic that I'm going to talk about, and it's a mouthful, is Cave Carson Has a Cybernetic Eye #1. Have you ever even heard of this book before?
I have not.
Well, it's a DC book.
Is it really?
Yeah. It's under their Young Animal imprint, which is, I don't know if it's necessarily like he's the showrunner in quotes, of course, or if he's just the writer on this particular book, but it is written by, Gerard, Way from My Chemical Romance.
I know he's written other comics too.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm not a huge fan of their music.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all right. I like their last album, Danger Days, a lot better than some of their earlier stuff, but I was kind of drawn to their music because he is a pretty good storyteller. Like their albums usually have a concept to them.
Yeah.
And so I dig that a lot. I'm a huge Coheed and Cambria fan, and their entire band is a concept. So I definitely dig that type of music. So I was intrigued to see what he could do with a story when he didn't have to write shitty music, shitty emo music to it. So this book is really weird, as you would expect from him, and just the title in general is kind of weird. But unfortunately, there's just too much mystery and not a ton of substance in this book. Like, it's a #1, so I understand that they kind of have to set the stage for stuff, but they're like, I know this is going to be a weird association, but I kind of felt like the same way I felt when I was watching American Horror Story. Like, they tease too much in that show, and I don't really care about this universe yet. And I felt like that while I was reading this, there was way too much mystery, and make me care about these characters before you start teasing all of this other shit, because that's what's going to bring people back, is the characters. And I just didn't really care too much about these characters. There's a ton of dialogue, which I've talked about in past episodes that I'm not a huge fan of. I'd rather you kind of set the stage with a little bit more artwork. You kind of have to grade it on a curve, though, because it is the first issue and you do have to establish some stuff, but there's a ton of dialogue. I really like the artwork, though, which is kind of a shame that some of the dialogue bubbles kind of took over, but yeah, I won't read this book. We read way too much. It's not a bad book. It's just, with everything else I'm reading, I'm just not going to keep up with this.
So what, caused you to buy it? Like, what caused you to give it a shot?
It was a shitty week and I had to have something to talk about to be transparent.
Yeah. Did you buy the paper or?
No, I bought it on Comixology.
Okay.
There was a few books that I had picked up. Obviously, I do my new comic book video on the YouTube channel each week, but all of the books that I'd picked up, I had talked about on previous episodes a lot. So I was like, well, there's not a whole lot new for me to say about these books. And so I thought I would just pick something up that was a #1. And I saw that he had the Young Animal, whether or not he's involved in all of those imprints. it sounded interesting. And the cover looked cool. I know that we're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but it did kind of catch my eye a little bit. And so I was like, you know what? I'll give this a shot. It's something weird and different. It wasn't worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that does sound, disappointing, I guess, for sure.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, if you want something different, I would definitely suggest it. It kind of reminded me of, the Venture Brothers. Did you ever watch that on Adult Swim?
No, I didn't.
It's kind of, the concept is a little bit, similar. And so if you liked that, and the artwork definitely has kind of a cartoon feel to it. So if you like that show, maybe you'd be drawn to it. But it's not bad. It's just, like I said, we read so much. You kind of you have to be harsh with some of your choices. So, I mean, if I'm going to cut out a couple of Marvel titles that I've done, like the Inhumans and stuff like that, like, I can't justify reading this if I'm going to cut out stuff like that.
Oh, for sure, man.
All right. So our next segment is just plainly called, Nerd News. Tyler compiled all of the big nerd news, stories that have broke since the last time we talked. So what's nerd news this week?
So actually, a good week of nerd news. Probably the best we've had in a while, maybe since like Comic-Con. So, we'll go through a few here. I picked out 5 stories that, I think that pertain to us the most. So, the first one, Red Dead Redemption 2 was announced, and there was a teaser trailer for it. They didn't really show much, but the game's a year out. But it's been rumored for a while. It will be coming out fall 2017, and I am stoked. Like I've said multiple times on the podcast, like Resident Evil 4 is my favorite game of all time. This is a very, very, very close second for me. Like the first Red Dead game was just so much fun and so big, and just playing as a cowboy in the Wild West and, you know, not Southern America, but the Southern United States was really great, like on the Mexican border. And there's just so much you can do in that game. And I'm excited to see what they do with like a bigger engine with like the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. And I know that the map was leaked a couple months ago and it's much bigger. So I'm definitely excited for that game. I'm disappointed it's a year out, but, I know Rockstar will tweak it until it's perfect. So, definitely excited there.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this because it has been rumored for a while. So I think I've told this story before, but I'm going to tell it again just in case I haven't. But I have never actually beaten the first Red Dead. I loved it, but I had actually borrowed it from one of my roommates. And it was funny because I started playing it and I was just, I mean, I loved it. It's a fucking phenomenal game. And I was just telling him how much I was liking it. And he was like, yeah, it sounds awesome. I really like that game. I'm going to take it back and replay it. I'm like, you motherfucker. So I got like halfway through that game. I played it for like 2 weeks straight. And that's pretty much all I did other than work and play Red Dead. Yeah. I mean, that's all I did for about 2 weeks. And I was telling him how much I liked it. And he was like, yeah, that game's awesome. I kind of want to replay it. So I'm going to take it back.
Did you ever play Undead Nightmare?
No, I never got to that.
Dude, like you would love that so much. It is like the essential zombie game too. Like it's so good. It's really great. It's open world zombie game. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So I'm definitely looking forward to this, and I will be getting it when it comes out, and I will be enjoying it like I do with most Rockstar games.
For sure, man. I got a couple trailers here that were released this week. The first one was kind of out of nowhere, and it was released by James Gunn on Facebook, I believe. It's Guardians of the Galaxy 2. He didn't really say it was a trailer. He said it's more of just like a teaser that they threw together to hold us over until they release a trailer, which I'm assuming will be with Doctor Strange. But, did you give that a watch?
I did.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't show much. That shows a funny moment between, Drax and, Star-Lord, and, you know, it ends with the money shot of Rocket and Groot. So not a ton in it, but like, I expect nothing but greatness from this movie. Like, I think that they're kind of on point right now.
Yeah, I didn't really like it that much. I mean, I'm not judging the movie at all. Like, it's going to be a fantastic movie. I have complete faith. It's just the trailer itself, if you're looking at it in a vacuum, which is all we really have to look at so far with this movie. It definitely felt like it was thrown together. Yeah,
I think that he didn't mean for it to be what it became. Like, he released the teaser poster earlier in the day, and I think that he was just thought he was, you know, releasing a little bit of footage to kind of
but I mean, you have to know at this point that nerds are just gonna dissect everything that you put out.
Oh, absolutely. So there's not much to it, but I would almost guarantee that we get a a regular teaser trailer with Doctor Strange next month.
For sure. The biggest thing that I was disappointed with it is the music plays such a big role in the first one, and then you're just recycling a song that you used in the first one. And I get that it's not really officially a trailer or anything like that. Yeah. They just threw it together, but that was kind of disappointing because I was really looking forward to seeing what kind of cool music they were going to use for this second one.
Yeah, I would imagine that they're almost under more pressure with the soundtrack than they are with the movie, because that soundtrack was so huge.
Yeah, I love that soundtrack.
For sure. The other trailer was the trailer for Logan, which is the third Wolverine movie and Hugh Jackman's final appearance as Wolverine. So I'll ask you what you think about it. Personally, I could be less excited for this movie.
Really?
Yeah, just the X-Men universe is so fucked. I was talking to a guy at work earlier this week. I think that my problem is I need continuity.
Yeah.
And there's like four timelines, and it's so hard to follow anymore. It's like, which timeline is this even in? Why are all the X-Men dead? I don't know. Like, it had a cool vibe to it, but I'm not excited. I'll see it. We'll review it, but I'm not excited. Like, I'm bummed that Hugh Jackman's hanging up the claws, but, you know, they're kind of forcing X-23 into this, I'm assuming, take his place eventually. And I don't know. It all just feels kind of forced to me.
Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to this movie a little bit more than you are, but yeah, I'm not like super hyped for it or anything like that. I thought the trailer did a fairly effective job. I like the Old Man Logan stuff. I like the idea of, because I mean, it gets to a certain point where what are you going to do against Wolverine? And so I like the idea of kind of him losing his powers and him kind of having to adapt to that and him getting older. So I like the idea of that. I think I disagree with the X-23 stuff. I'm kind of excited. She got a bad rap in the, was it X2 that she was in? And she was dispatched really quickly?
No, I thought those are different characters. That's Lady Deathstrike.
Oh, really? I thought they were going for her.
I'm pretty sure, like, I don't know. I'm not 100% confident enough to, like, tell you you're wrong, like, 100%, but I'm, like, 90% sure those are two different characters.
Oh, really?
Because X-20, like, Lady Deathstrike has the claws that come from her fingers, and X-23 just has two claws that come out.
Okay,
like
I just assumed that that's what they were doing. With X2, is that they were trying to do something different with
X-23 is a clone of Wolverine.
Yes.
Yeah.
But movies always take liberties. Yeah, so I assumed, and maybe I'm completely wrong, but I just assumed they were just taking liberties with that character. But anyways, I do, like that character a lot. And she is Wolverine in the comic books now. So that doesn't necessarily bother me, but I can see what you said about the different timelines, that they did kind of screw the pooch on all of that X-Men stuff.
So I'm confused. So we're in like 2024. Mutants are pretty much like gone. So is this the same timeline that we saw at the end of Days of Future Past where everything was good to go? Like, which timeline is this? Do you have any idea?
I have no idea. It's so hard to keep track of it.
I don't know, man. It's a bit frustrating, especially being a huge X-Men fan. Like, just.
I would assume that it's Days of Future Past. Like.
Well, that's a bummer. That movie, like, kind of wrapped things up for me nicely. Like, I really like the end of that movie, and it's like, oh, the characters from the original trilogy are all good, and Cyclops is alive, and we're good to go. And it's like, oh, well, actually 10 years later, everyone's dead, and Xavier has dementia, and Wolverine's gonna die. So. All right. Anyways, this one I think you'll probably know more about than I do, because you're more of the Nintendo fan between the both of us. But Nintendo did announce their next console that they're releasing, called the Nintendo Switch. It seems like they're doing what the Wii U tried to do, except maybe a little better. It's tablet gaming, and there's controllers on each side, so you can play it on your TV. Or I believe the trailer shows people taking it with them and playing in different places. So. You bought a Wii U, and I know you have your opinions on it, so I think I'm gonna just defer to you on this one.
Yeah, I did buy a Wii U. I was super excited for it because they kind of advertise it as what you described the Switch, which is just kind of, you can play it on your TV and it's high resolution, but then you can kind of take it with you. But unfortunately, when we got the Wii U, that was a big selling point for us. Was at the time, me and my wife are big pop culture fans. Like, we love watching TV, movies, and stuff like that. But sometimes she watches stuff that I don't want to watch, and I want to play video games. So we bought the Wii U as kind of like a compromise. Well, she can be watching TV while I play on the gamepad. Well, unfortunately, a lot of the games that they were coming out with the Wii U, at least initially when we first got it, didn't have that feature to it. Like the Arkham game, one of the Batman games, I don't know if it was Origins or what. They called it something different for Wii U. His utility belt was the gamepad. So you couldn't even play that game other than, like, you couldn't play it on the gamepad at all because it was a completely different feature. So there was only a few games that we owned that you could even play that feature on. And it seems like the Switch is exactly what I wanted the Wii U to be, is a completely mobile, you can play it on your TV, but then you could take it with you and play in a bunch of different situations, which my parents are now moving to Las Vegas, so I'm going to be probably traveling a lot more than I have been. So that'd be really cool if I could just sit there and play Mario or Zelda or whatever. And they released a new trailer for a new Zelda game that looks fucking fantastic. I can't think of the name of it right now. Something The Wind. I want to say The Name of the Wind, but that's a book that I just read, so I know that's not right.
I didn't realize you read books. No.
Well, I say read. I listen to Audible, which is cheating for sure.
I'm just giving you shit. But so you're gonna get the Switch?
Yes. I mean, they haven't released, as far as I know, they definitely didn't release the price when they released the trailer. I don't know if they've since then have come out with the starting price or not. But I know the Wii U was $2 or $3. I want to say it was $2.99 when it first came out. Yeah. Which, if the Switch is $2.99, for sure I'll be getting it. I'll sell my Wii U and just make up some of the costs of the Switch.
Cool. Last one was a bit of casting news that came out last night. It had been rumored, but now it is official that Donald Glover is playing Lando Calrissian in the Han Solo Star Wars spin-off movie. Rumor has it that the movie will show how how Lando loses the Millennium Falcon to Han, which I hope that that's not like the big selling point of the movie. Hopefully, like that, if that's the entire plot, then we all know that Han gets the Millennium Falcon, so that's pretty lame, but I'm sure that that'd just be a beat in the storyline. So I don't know. I think that's pretty much perfect casting, right?
Yeah, and I feel good about it because, I mean, he obviously fits the bill. I think he looks like Lando. He looks like a younger Lando. Like, that makes sense. And he's been up for so many big roles, and the fact that he finally got one. I guess he finally got Spider-Man Homecoming. So that's a big role for him. But this is his first really big blockbuster that he's going to really star in. So I'm definitely happy for him, and I think that it's perfect casting.
Yeah, he'll kill it, man. He's a nerd too, so I'm sure he's pumped as well.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
All right, dude. That is all I have for nerd news.
All right, so our next segment is just kind of plainly called the main topic because it changes from episode to episode. We review a lot of movie and TV, so we're going to review another movie, sort of, I guess. It's kind of movie and TV.
Yeah.
Because it was a movie, but it premiered on Fox. The Rocky Horror Picture Show. Let's Do the Time Warp Again, I guess is the official title. So we'll be reviewing that. Like I said, it was released on Fox last Thursday. I didn't actually watch it when it aired. I just taped it because I was watching the Bears lose to the Packers on Thursday Night Football, so I have to keep my stupid fucking mustache. But it was directed by Kenny Ortega, which I never heard that name before, and it makes sense because I looked at his IMDb page, and he did the High School Musical movies, so that would make sense because I'd never seen those movies. I actually decided, we watched it, my wife and I watched it last night because like I said, I had taped it, and we decided to watch the original and then watch the remake, which is a really bad idea. And we'll get into why I think that's a bad idea here in a little bit. But, I actually normally in this part of the review, I do a synopsis, but this movie follows the exact same plot of a movie that's 41 years old. So I didn't feel the need to do a synopsis because you should be, if you don't know what Rocky Horror is, then you should stop this podcast right now. Watch the original. Don't watch this one. Watch the original and then come back.
There was a guy on my Facebook feed, I'm friends with, and he posted Wednesday. He's like, I've never seen Rocky Horror before, and I've never had any interest to, and I still don't, because he's a conservative nut job, which is
cool
why.
Story, bro.
No,
Why?
Yeah, so he went out of his way to post something shitty on Facebook about it, and so he's not my friend on Facebook anymore.
Yeah.
But I'm surprised, like, just from talking to people, how many people still haven't seen the original. Like, I don't know if it's just like
definitely a cult movie.
I don't know if it's the group of people I just like work with and I'm around on a daily basis, but
it's a weird fucking movie.
It's
man.
very weird, but it's so great. Like, before we get into shitting on the remake, I know
well, maybe.
Yeah. So, it was on your top 10 when we did top 10 movies last year, right? Like, so.
Of all time, yeah.
And
the original.
I watched it in middle school, and I didn't watch it again until last year's Shocktober. And I believe whenever we did a Shocktober recap,
which we'll be redoing again next week.
I talked about how that was my favorite viewing for last Shocktober. And so both of us love the original. I think you have more ties to it than I do, but it's such a great, weird movie. And that being said, we can probably go ahead and get into this review. Yeah.
So we start off each review by starting with just kind of a general overview. We call it broad strokes. Tyler just talked for a while, so I'm going to just go ahead and do mine real quick. For me, remakes and reboots are kind of the thing to do right now. And we've talked about this before on past episodes, that there are certain franchises that we care about. Like, so we get nervous. And then there's other ones that, we can kind of just sit back and relax and just appreciate it for what it is, because we don't really have any ties to the franchise or the original. Like Tyler mentioned, this was my number 10 when we did our top 10 favorite movies of all time, the original. And so I was definitely uneasy. I really wanted it to be good. I really wanted to like it because, like I said, I love the original. I just, with the cast and it being on Fox and being kind of a TV movie, I just didn't see how it could be good. Because it's definitely a weird movie, and Fox is obviously a premier network, so I just didn't know how they were going to make this weird cult movie into a big deal. I know that kind of the live musical productions have been kind of a hit recently, but I just didn't think that this was going to be what they wanted it to be. And remakes are at their best when they kind of take a concept, an original concept, and kind of make it their own. This movie didn't even try to do that. It was almost a shot-for-shot remake of the original. And I kept looking over my wife while we were watching it and be like, why did they even fucking bother? Like, if you're just gonna make a shot-for-shot remake, why even remake it? The charm of the original is kind of how it's weird and it's kind of not, I mean, it's not shot bad, but it's not like super crisp. But like it's an homage to old sci-fi, like double featured kind of cheesy, campy sci-fi movies. And that's what it was trying to do. And if you're just going to clean that up and make it look nice, then why even fucking bother? Like, that's not the point of the original. Like, don't clean it up and make it look nice, because that's part of the charm of the original.
Yeah.
I did appreciate they tried to recreate the crowd interaction, but it just felt really forced. And that's not something that you can necessarily recreate. It's such a community event when you go see Rocky Horror, whether it's the stage show or the movie. And I don't think, even though they tried, and I appreciated that they tried, it's not something that you can recreate.
Yeah, so I'll probably find myself playing the devil's advocate a little bit through our review, just because it's going to sound like I probably didn't hate it as much as you did. I guess, the remake thing, it's kind of a lose-lose situation, right? If you change it too much, people are pissed because you changed it. If you do it so much like the original, people say, why didn't you do something new and unique with it? So I think that that's kind of a double-edged sword. That being said, I agree with you, that this probably wasn't necessary. I'll be honest, I'm kind of happy it exists because...
Oh no, I hate it.
I'm happy it exists and it was shown because it was shown on Fox. And I wonder if Fox News is aware of what was going on their sister channel on Thursday night. Because That's very much different from some of the views expressed on that network. But anyways, whenever this was announced, I think I was more optimistic about it than you were. I was actually happy that Laverne Cox was cast as Frankenfurter.
Oh, I was absolutely thrilled about it.
Whenever that happened, I thought that was great. And then whenever they said Tim Curry was going to be in it, as the criminologist, I was like, oh my God, like this is, like, that's awesome. But it's what you said. You can't recapture the magic. Like, even if this was made for theaters, like, it's impossible to recapture what the original did. I don't know. It's just, this isn't built for network TV, and they didn't dumb it down as much as I thought they would.
Yeah.
But, I mean, still, it's one thing, like I said, it's impossible to capture the magic again, but it's even more impossible to do it, on that network. So, it's disappointing that it wasn't, better, but, I mean, as we got closer to it and I saw the trailers for it, I kind of thought that it would fall a little flat, for sure.
Yeah, so our next segment, we break up all of our reviews into, like, kind of miniature segments, is story. I kind of feel awkward talking about, I mean, because it's, like I said, it's shot for shot, a remake, so the story pretty much, stays exactly the same. I really like the story. It's weird, but it's kind of weird in the best way. But like I said, they basically did this exact same thing. It was weird because the first one is shot 41 years ago, and it kind of fits that time period. Were they doing the exact same thing in this one? Like, it felt weird.
I mean, who doesn't have a phone, right? So, like, they go to the castle looking for a phone. So I'd imagine
just the way they talked, and it felt weird. That being said, like, who is this movie for? Because it's not, I don't think they made it for people like me that love the original, because if they did a really shit job at it. So are they trying to get more, like, teenagers? Because I don't think that they're going to gravitate to this movie either.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know who the audience is for. I would imagine that the audience is the people that love the original, or people looking for something to watch on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, people that love the original and don't want it to be fucked with. So I don't know. Like I said, again, double-edged sword. Like, I don't know that this should have been done, I guess.
Yeah. So there was 3 things that I counted that, I mean, there was a couple of lines that they tweaked a little bit, but for the most part, there was 3 things that I counted. Well, 4, I guess, that were different. First, obviously, the most glaring one is the introduction. They changed that, which I actually, when I was watching it, I was like, okay, cool. They're going to do something different. Like I said, remakes, you kind of want to take them and kind of make them their own. And I appreciated that. And then the crowd being, watching the movie and kind of interacting with the movie. I, again, appreciated that. I don't think that they did, they did what they could to kind of recreate that. It's definitely a tough thing to recreate. So I appreciate that they at least tried. And then there's a scene in the original where Frankenfurter takes Rocky to bed. And I don't remember that being in the remake, so I don't know if they just skipped that because of the man-on-man stuff.
Yeah.
Because it is on Fox, but they have that later with Brad.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the distinction between the two things are. And then Eddie. Oh, no, there's another. They don't eat Eddie, and when Professor Scott comes in, so I guess there's 5 little things that they changed. When Professor Scott comes in, they don't turn on the magnets. They just take him up the elevator.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there wasn't a ton that they changed in an hour and like 40-minute movie. They changed, 5 little things, I guess?
Yeah. I don't know. For me, like, the story is, I liked what they changed with the intro. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Personally, I didn't like the crowd interaction part of it. It seemed like
I didn't really like it, but I appreciated that they at least tried.
It seemed forced. For sure, and it kind of took me out of it. And then this isn't fair to put this into a review for this movie, but the commercial breaks, I watched it live. It took me out of it. Like,
yeah, but I mean, I thought they did a good job of, like, they didn't seem like there was as many as you would expect.
Yeah, it just took me out of it because I don't know if it could be like our news station or it could be my TV even, but I had to turn the movie up so loud to hear the songs. And then when the commercials came on, they were blaring. So it took me out of it. I started watching it again this morning on Hulu, and it's a much better watch that way.
Because you got that ad-free Hulu.
I got that ad-free life on Hulu. So it's much better that way. For sure. So it's not fair to hold commercials against this movie by any means, but that did kind of hamper my viewing experience for it. I'm surprised I haven't read anything. I kind of thought this would stir up some controversy a little bit. Just because of the transphobia in this country. And I don't want to say looking forward to that, but like, I like that this movie is kind of an FU to them. Like you have, well, we'll probably get into it more into performances, but you have a transsexual woman who is, after a man and a woman, like you talked about, her going to bed with Brad and she goes to bed with Janet. And then, in the pool later, everybody's pretty much almost making out. And I really like that aspect of it and the climate of our culture now. But that being said, this movie did it 41 years ago before before it was even a thing. Like it was so ahead of its time that it again hampers the remake.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned the performances, and that usually when we do our reviews, the story is what we kind of base a lot of our thoughts on. And for me, it was the performances because, like I said, the story was pretty much exactly the same. So let's go ahead and get right into the performances. For me,
I think this is where we're going to probably tear it apart.
Okay.
So I want to ask you before you get started, were there performances you liked?
I didn't mind Tim Curry. I thought that was, he was cool to be in it. His like assistant was kind of funny at a couple of points. Just how it was just a weird, she brought a weird vibe to the movie. And so I kind of dug that a little bit. I laughed a couple, times during their scenes together, but, no, not really. I hated pretty much everybody in this movie.
There were a few I wanted to point out that I liked before we get going on more.
Okay.
So, Victoria Justice, I thought that she was good as Janet. Ryan McCartan, I thought was good as Brad, even though he was kind of doing a Barry Bostwick impression. But
everybody was doing an impression. That's my problem.
The person that I don't think was doing an impression was Annalay Ashford. Oh, fuck, what's that character's name? Not Magenta, the other girl. Claudia?
No, it's, God damn it. Now all I can hear is Claudia. It's not her. It's
Constance?
No, just fucking look it up. But,
anyways, I thought those three were good. I thought that Adam Lambert, like, he just comes in and sings a song. So he was fine as,
no, he wasn't.
Meatloaf, or not Meatloaf, as, Eddie. But,
he wasn't fine. That's horrible.
And then, like you said, Tim Curry, like, it was kind of sad at the same time as being cool to see him and him being part of the Don't Dream It, Be It bit was, pretty awesome. But, besides that, Columbia, started with a C. But yeah, from there, I'll let you go ahead and have it.
Yeah, everyone is doing a bad impression of their character from the original. It was hard for me to pick one person that I hated the most. And for me, it was between Rocky, Riff Raff, and Eddie.
Riff Raff was bad.
He was horrible.
That dude
and you know
was
what?
Awful.
He's an actual actor.
Yeah.
He's in Penny Dreadful.
That's the only reason Brittany watched it with me was because she said that the guy who plays Riff Raff is in Penny Dreadful and she loves that show.
Yeah. He was really, really fucking bad.
They all were doing impressions. His was the worst impression.
Yeah. Rocky was pretty bad though. That guy pissed me the fuck off.
I think that he.
But I mean, Rocky in the original, he wasn't a very good actor.
I want to say that they dubbed him over too.
Yeah, he's the only one that doesn't do his own music, his own singing.
Yeah.
So, and Adam Lambert, man, I gotta disagree with you. He was horrible.
I don't see how. Like he's on the screen for 5 minutes.
His singing, obviously, he's a great singer. And he kind of has the same tone as Meatloaf, so I was actually kind of excited for that, because that's actually my favorite musical number.
I was going to ask you that. I figured like everybody just likes Time Warp, so.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I love that song as well, but as far as a musical number, I love that scene. And he ruined it for me because his acting is so bad. Like when he falls out of the window It's really bad.
It's all over. That's the thing the first one's cheesy and great. This one like forced the cheesiness and it's not great. Like, and I think that's like all the performances. I think like the big one we're holding off on right now is Laverne Cox as Dr. Frankenfurter. And like, I was so excited for her to play that part, but dude, it's terrible. And I hate saying that, but she was really, really, really bad.
So when you first see her, it's a big moment in the original. And so they do a decent job, I guess, of making it a big moment in the remake. And that song is really cool.
Yeah.
I like that. I mean, I like pretty much all of the songs.
Yeah,
it's one of the few soundtracks that I actually own. And, so I thought they did a pretty good job with that. And I actually kind of dug her. Like, I thought she did, out of all of the impressions, I thought she did the best impression. But it was just weird because during that scene, I was like, all right, like, I liked the intro to it. I wasn't really digging the rest of it. And then they introduced her character and I was like, okay, yeah, maybe she'll save it. But her acting, like when she wasn't singing, was really bad. Like she was just one note the whole time. She didn't have any like pitch or inflection in her tone. Like there's a couple of scenes where they're talking about Rocky and Janet's just like, I don't really like guys with muscles. Well, I didn't make it for you. And she said it like Tim Curry in the original gets like really upset in that scene. And she just like, well, I didn't make it for you, or I didn't make him for you, and just kind of said it exactly like that. I was just like, it has nothing in that performance. And so throughout the whole movie, it was just that one note the whole time when she wasn't singing. She's a fantastic singer, but I don't take away anybody's singing ability in this movie. They could all sing, but I didn't really like the changes that they made in the music, but they can all sing. It's the acting was really bad. Everybody was doing just a really shitty impression of the characters from the original. Yeah,
I was really hoping that Laverne Cox especially would, like, it's such an iconic role and Tim Curry just like nails it so well that I imagined that you couldn't do an impression of that. And I was hoping that she'd, in a way, make it her own, but stay true to the, like, homage him. But, like, no. She just did a terrible impression of Tim Curry, and it doesn't work.
And a lot of acting is just making choices, and some of the choices that they did make were weird. Like, the whole, Columbia thing with the sucker, I thought that was really fucking weird. I actually thought that they had a pretty good casting of her, because she does, Columbia in the original, I can't remember the actress's name. She has a kind of an abrasive voice. Yeah. Like she has a very high pitched voice, and it was whoever was Columbia in the
Annalise Ashford.
Yeah, she has a similar type of singing voice. So I thought that was actually pretty good, but then the whole thing with the sucker, and it was just some of the changes that they made were kind of weird.
So you fault this movie for not making changes, and then you fault it for making changes. But the changes that they didn't
make were fucking stupid.
Like, you're gonna call out a sucker? Like, come on.
That was a weird choice to make.
I did not mind the sucker. Yeah. I minded other things.
Well, I certainly minded other things as well, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the performances. Okay. And that was one thing that I did not like.
Okay.
So, the next segment that we usually talk about is like action, but there's not really action in this movie.
I'm really hoping you're going to say music, because that's what I planned for.
I was gonna kind of segue into the music, but so let's just talk about the music for a little bit.
So, I don't know. You talked about your favorite song in Rocky Horror. Mine is, like, I hate to be stereotype, but it's Time Warp. Like, I just love Time Warp. And they
butchered the fuck out of it.
Yeah, the beginning of Time Warp in this version sounds like a country song.
Yeah.
And I fucking hate country, for one. So, oh man, it was just a bummer. Like you said, they all can sing, and there were some performances in this that I liked. But, you know, as soon as I heard Time Warp being butchered, I was kind of done. I thought that, is it Touch Me, or is it Touch Me?
I don't remember.
Whatever the name of it is. Like, I thought that was fine. And I thought Damn It Janet was good. But once they butchered Time Warp, I was kind of done.
Yeah, like I said, everybody could sing in this movie. Obviously, that's why they were cast, because they can sing.
Yep.
Not so much with their acting ability, obviously. But one thing that I kind of noticed, and I know this is going to be kind of a weird association, but it felt like we were watching almost like an American Idol performance of these songs. Like, when you watch that show or shows like it, they always they draw every note out a little bit longer than it needs to be because they have to showcase what they can do. Yeah. And I felt like that's what they were doing in this movie, was that they were like drawing everything out, every high note out to show, okay, I can sing and look at what I can do with this music. And the music's fine the way it is. It's a great soundtrack. Just sing it the way it should be sung. You don't have to draw everything out, every single note. And I just felt like they were doing that a lot in this movie.
Yeah, for sure. That's what feels like so different about the original, is the original is like this grungy movie, and
yeah,
it's so fun to watch. And then this movie is so prim and perfect.
Yeah.
Like everybody's vibrant costumes and like the choreography is amazing, but there's something charming about the choreography in the original one just being kind of thrown together. I don't know. It's definitely a different feel. And I think that's part of the reason they didn't capture that aura of the original.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it felt like every song was kind of drawn out a little bit and I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, that's pretty much all I have for Rocky Horror Picture Show. Let's do the Time Warp again. I hate that. That's the title. I hate it so much. Star rating.
I don't know, man. I've kind of flirted with, 2 different ratings. I think I'm going to go with a 2.
Okay. I think this might be the lowest I've ever given anything. I wanted to say 1 when I first watched it, but there is some good stuff in there. I mean, not necessarily good might be a strong word, but I mean, there's some stuff that you can kind of point to that's a little bit better than others. So I'm going to go 1.5, which might tie for like the lowest rating I've ever given it. Is this your least favorite movie of the year so far?
Oh, no. I can't imagine. I'll have to look, but I can't imagine.
It is for me, for sure.
It's like I said at the beginning, and I know you disagreed with me, but I'm happy that this was there, and I'm happy that this played on Fox, and I hope that a bunch of people that have really old mindsets were flipping through the channels Thursday night and came across Laverne Cox shoving Victoria Justice's face into her cleavage. Like, I hope that this movie offended somebody out there that
for sure
has a skewed world perspective. So for that alone, like, I appreciate that this movie was on.
For sure.
Cool. Nerd favorite?
Yep.
All right. So we cap off each episode with a nerd favorite. Nerds always have these nerdy conversations. What's your favorite blank? This week is my week to ask Pat a question. So I'm going to throw it out there what your favorite musical is, since we just talked about Rocky Horror. For me, Rocky Horror is definitely a very, very close second to what my actual favorite musical is, and that is The Book of Mormon.
Okay.
I talked about it on an episode earlier this year.
I figured you would go with something with like Disney.
I don't know. Like, is a Disney movie like would you consider what, like Beauty and the Beast? I guess that's a musical, right? Yeah,
I would consider Aladdin, Lion King,
I don't know.
Beauty and the Beast.
I guess I don't consider those musicals. Maybe that's why. But anyways, I think I would probably still stick with Book of Mormon. Not that I like that production better than watching Beauty and the Beast or anything, but it was just like that. I have the soundtrack to that. I listen to it often. It's just so funny and so clever, and the stage production was amazing, and like the songs are so catchy and so offensive but hilarious, and it's great. It's really a great show. So if it ever travels to wherever you are, I definitely suggest seeing it. Or if you are seeing something on Broadway, I believe it's still on Broadway, and I would love to eventually see it on Broadway, but I doubt that would ever happen.
Yeah.
But Book of Mormon is fantastic. I'd imagine at some point they'll make it into a movie. I know that Trey Parker and Matt Stone have been asked about it, and they've considered it. So I'm sure it'll happen one day, but who knows? The music though alone is great.
Yeah, I have not seen that one. I'm a huge South Park fan. I like their sense of humor, even though I do think they're kind of miserable, like they hate everything, which, I mean, it's fine, whatever. But, I'd love to see that be made into a movie because like I said, I like their sense of humor. I'd love to see it as a play, but I haven't had that opportunity yet. I mean, it's pretty obvious. Like, Rocky Horror made my all-time favorite list, and I don't think another musical made that list, so it's got to be Rocky Horror. But for the sake of conversation, because we just got done talking about Rocky Horror, I would have to say, I mean, Sweeney Todd. Like, I don't watch that many musicals.
Yeah.
I just recently watched Sweeney Todd, and that's pretty awesome. I saw a stage production of that, but it was a school stage production, so that doesn't really count. But, yeah, I really liked that movie a lot. One of Tim Burton's, rare good ones recently. So
Yeah. It's probably his last good movie, right?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I can't think of any other one that jumps out to me, but yeah, I mean, it's really good. Rocky Horror obviously is the obvious choice, but yeah, I mean, I really like Sweeney Todd a lot as well.
Perfect, man.
All right. So as always, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram. They're both at The Nerds Podcast. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Google+. We'll force for Podcasts of the Month at podcastland.com. You can comment and subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Nerds You're Looking For. Check out our Twitch channel, which Tyler does a weekly stream Monday at 9 p.m. Central, which I'm assuming he's going to be doing Gears of War 4 for a while now.
Yeah.
You can subscribe, rate, review us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, basically any good podcatcher you use, we're on it. You can also email us at thenerdsyourlookingfor@gmail.com. For Patrick Kuhn,
Tyler Hunt.
we are The Nerds You're Looking For. Take it easy, guys.
See you guys later.